Hey everyone, I hope you're doing awesome. It's time for another math lesson. So today we're going to take what you've been talking about with volume and add a little extra flair to it. Now it's really going to be using everything you already know, how volume is length times width times height, but it's going to add a little extra step to it. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Take this cake for example. This cake I know is a rectangular prism because it's the shape of a rectangle and it's got 3 dimensions. It's got its length, it's got its width, it's got its height. So for me to find the volume, all I have to do is measure these dimensions. When I measured the dimensions, I found that my length was 12 inches, my width was 8 inches, and my height was 1 inch. When I used my volume formula, I found that my volume is 96 inches cubed. We've pretty much mastered how to figure out the volume of a rectangular prism, but what if you have a shape that looks like this? After cutting the cake, I no longer have a perfect rectangular prism, but I can still use what I know about the volume formula to find the volume of this cake. What I have to do is I'm going to have to cut this L shape into 2 or more rectangular prisms to find the volume. So I can either cut it here, or I can cut it here. Either way, I would have 2 different rectangular prisms that I can find the volume of. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Now what I've done is I've taken my L-shaped cake and split it into 2 different rectangular prisms. We're going to call this first one rectangular prism A, and this second one rectangular prism B. And what I can do from here is use my basic volume formula to figure out the volume of both shapes. When I measured the measurements of prism A, I found that the length of A is 6 inches, the width of A is 8 inches, and the height of A is 1 inch. Then I used my volume formula and found that the volume of prism A was 48 inches cubed. When I took the measurements of prism B, I found the length of B was 6 inches, the width of B was 4 5/10 inches, and the height of B was 1 inch. When I multiplied my length times width times height, I found that the volume of B was 27 inches cubed. To find my total volume of the entire L-shaped cake, I then have to take my volume of prism A and add it to my volume of prism B. This will give me my total volume. So when I added 48 inches cubed plus 27 inches cubed, the total volume of my cake is 75 inches cubed. Now let's talk about how what we did with the cake applies to the work you're going to be doing today. Today you're going to see some L-shaped figures that you are going to have to find the volume of. So let's follow the steps that you see in this video to find the volume of this L-shaped figure. The first step says that we need to cut the solid into 2 rectangular prisms. Cut the solid into the 2 rectangular prisms. You have to make sure that you're actually making rectangular prisms and not a funny looking shape. So what that means is I can't cut it diagonally here. If I did that, I wouldn't have 2 rectangular prisms. So you can either cut it vertically this way, or you can cut it horizontally this way. For this activity, I'm going to choose to cut it vertically, and we are going to call this prism A, and this one is going to be prism B. For step 2, we're to label the length, width, and height of each prism. I found the best way to find the volume of each figure is to label it as I've labeled it to the right. What you see is we're looking for a length of A, a width of A, and a height of A so that I can find my total volume of A. So when I look over here at prism A, I look to my length right here. Now I don't see a number right there, but what I can do is I can look to find a set of parallel lines. And if I look, this 2 inches is parallel to this front length, so I know that my length is going to be 2 inches. Now I need to find my width of A. My width is going to be my front to back, and I see right there that my width of A is going to be 2 inches as well. And then my height is going to be 8 inches. So when I multiply my length times my width times my height, 2 times 2 is 4, and then 4 times 8 is 32. So my total volume is going to be 32 inches cubed for prism A. Now I need to do the same thing for prism B. With prism B, I have to be a little bit careful because I've taken this shape and cut it. So I don't need this entire length here. I just need to take part of it. So what I have to do is I have to look around my figure and see if there is another part that shows me where my length is. So I'm going to use what I talked about before, look for parallel lines. So I'm going to look for a line parallel to this length. And I look to this line. I don't see a measurement there, so I'm going to go to the next parallel line, and I see that my length is going to be 6 inches. Next, I need to find my width, and I see that my width is going to be 2 inches, and then my height is also going to be 2 inches. When I take my length times width times height, which is 6 inches times 2 inches times 2 inches, I find a total volume of 24 inches cubed. So the volume of prism B is going to be 24 inches cubed. Now that I have the volume of A and the volume of B, I'm ready to combine the two volumes in my final step to get the total volume of the solid. As we talked about with the cake, when we combine the two volumes, we have to take volume of A and add it to volume of B to find that total volume. When I put that into the formula, I have 32 inches cubed plus 24 inches cubed. After adding together volume A and volume B, I find that my total volume is 56 inches cubed. This concept that we just talked about is called additive volume. The reason it's called additive volume is because you are taking 2 or more rectangular prisms and adding the volume together to get the total volume. So you're doing things that you already knew how to do by finding the length, width, and height, and then multiplying together to find the volume. You just have to do it a couple of times. I know you're going to do great with our activities and lessons today, so can't wait to see how you do.